Afternoon, everyone. I'm Linda Fandel, Work-Based Learning Liaison at Iowa Workforce Development, here with my colleague Jody Smith, Education Program Consultant for Work-Based Learning and Industry Recognized Credentials at the Iowa Department of Education. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Growing Employer High School Internship Programs. High school internships are evolving from goodwill activities into strategic workforce development tools. Employers increasingly recognize that it's a good investment to offer in-depth work-based learning experiences to students, both students who plan to directly enter the workforce after graduation and those who plan to go on to college. But those who enter the workforce directly after high school graduation are about 40% of our high school graduates. So that's a big talent pool. This growing interest in internships coincides with the rise of artificial intelligence, which is transforming how companies operate and creating new opportunities for students to add value quickly. So for employers, how can you make the most of high school internships or internships that start right after high school? And what needs to be considered to build a sustainable program? And how does AI fit into this? For educators, how can teachers, work-based learning coordinators, and school administrators facilitate more internships and help students develop the AI skills employers seek? And what should students consider when applying for internships? Let's find out from our outstanding panel. I will very briefly introduce them, and then they will reintroduce themselves in more depth as part of their brief 5-minute presentations. Jody Smith and I will ask questions throughout. We'll also look for questions in the chat from the audience, so please put your questions in the chat. So we have Kylie Ayala and Matt Puffer from Team Klein, Jennifer Down with Mercy One Workforce Development, and Margaret Allen with Trinity Health System, which includes Mercy One, Doug Ford from Wells Enterprises, Mitchell Hora and Peggy Miller with Continuum Ag, and I'm hoping that Kyle Coolers can join us from the Waterloo Career Center, if not yet, soon. So we're excited to have everyone here today, and with that, let's get started with Team Klein. Kylie and Matt.
Hi, I'm Kylie Ayala with Team Klein. I am our employee development coordinator as well as our registered apprenticeship instructor here in-house. And I've got Matt Puffer with me.
I'm Matt Puffer. I'm the HR director for Team Klein. Team Klein has 5 branch locations throughout Iowa, Nebraska, and Missouri. We have HVAC, plumbing, and electrical services that we provide.
So our internship program, we do offer our internship program as a pipeline to hire. So we offer quarterly job site tours, job shadows, and then just like our regular old internship program with hopes to start some pre-apprenticeship programs with some schools here in the metro. This is our 6th year that we have hired, or our 6th season really, that we've hired interns. We just had 4 interns start on Monday. So right now our goal is to hire interns per department. So for us, that's about 6 spots. But since we just last summer started our HVAC and our plumbing divisions, we're hoping that that can look more like 12 spots in the future or some sort of rotation between the trades.
Do you want to go through the internship, how we've hired people from there?
You're talking about
95%.
Okay. So actually one of our best hiring practices is our recruitment of our interns. I say that it's a pipeline because it truly is. I think the national average for retention in construction is, do you know, is it 57?
Somewhere in there.
Somewhere in the 50s. And our retention for our interns is higher than 80%, with those who have finished the 4-year program after hire being almost 100%. So if a student is coming in to work with a company from high school, they're, at least according to our statistics, they're much more likely to stay with that company once they've finished that apprenticeship program.
And we use the apprenticeship program to help fill, like Kylie said, to help fill the pipeline. We've had several of our long-term employees have started off as interns, work through the internship, go through the apprenticeship program, and now are licensed journeymen, electricians with us as an organization. So it's a great tool to have that. And then they also invite friends and family. So our referral rate's really high.
That's what I was just going to mention. Our referral rate is our next best hiring practice. And a lot of our good referrals come from those who've gone through a successful internship.
Yeah, we find working with the schools really beneficial in helping develop some good skill sets for people to come in, and if they have the right attitude. Like Kylie said, we will train the technical side of things. If people have good attitude and good work ethic, we can do a lot with helping to develop their skill sets as an organization.
One of your interns told me that all the support Team Klein provided made him feel very valued and very interested in understanding how he could be part of the team. And I know he's continued on into apprenticeship with you. So how do you create a structure for your interns that makes them really understand what the opportunities are as electrical apprentices and potentially in other roles at Team Klein?
I think having there be a partnership through a school and not just picking up people who apply for an open internship spot really helps, because on the back end of the program of the school, there's oversight, and they're helping kind of show students what paths are there and help them select what path is right, so that when they're partnered with Team Klein or many the other contractors in the area, they kind of already have the field that they want to be in. Maybe they figure out while they're an intern that that's not the right one, but they've helped narrow it down with the schools. And then from there, having one point of contact for that intern to communicate with. They're going to be on several job sites. They're going to be with different foremen. We're hoping to get to the point where there's a rotation and they may not even be in the same trade for their entire internship, but one point of contact, because if they know, if I just get a hold of this person, they can help me with the rest of it. It's a good person to lean on. And then that's really where that initial bond and that initial trust starts.
And working with the schools, it's also a good way to support the students. They get the support from Team Klein, their foremen, and then also the school is helping to watch out and help develop them as well.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Well, thank you, Matt and Kylie. Let's go next to Jennifer Down with Mercy One. Jennifer?
I think you're
Jennifer, I think you're still muted.
Here I am going on and on. Thank you for having me, Linda and Jody. I'm the workforce development partner for Mercy One in Iowa. I cover the entire state of Iowa in my role. I work on creating career pathways to fill gaps in employment within our organization, specifically for high priority healthcare roles that are gaps nationwide. So these roles are roles that we're always working to fill, and we just can't seem to get there with traditional talent acquisition processes. I also work really closely with community partners, high schools, and educational institutions to create those pathways and think a little bit outside the box to come up with different types of programming. So one of the programs I wanted to highlight today is a summer phlebotomy program that we had just this past summer. We were awarded the State of Iowa Youth Opportunity Grant Funding opportunity in Northeast Iowa. And so we set up this career pathway program. Initially, as we were brainstorming which program do we want to talk about? What do we want to focus on? We had a 40% vacancy in our clinical lab and phlebotomy lab technician areas. So we wanted to reach out in the local community, find some youth ages 18 to 24 that might be interested in healthcare where we could create this pathway. This was a comprehensive program. We had 10 students enrolled. It was a pilot program, so our first time doing this at Mercy One. And we had 10 students enrolled. They were all between the ages of 18 and 24, and the program was 8 weeks. So it started in the summer, ended in the summer. We relied heavily on referrals from our local high schools in Mason City. And we also we used IJAG. I don't know if you're familiar with IJAG, but we worked really closely with IJAG to get some of those great referrals. And we also got referrals from our Iowa Workforce Development Board. So I will say we had some really good applicants for this program. We didn't actually have to turn any of those applicants away. We had a few more than we were able to handle, and some of them dropped out at the last minute, had other summer plans come up. One thing I will say that one of the biggest factors in the success of our program was just having the buy-in from our internal staff on the ground. We call them our boots on the ground team. And they really took off with this program. They were excited and there was so much enthusiasm around it. And I couldn't be more grateful for that. But we also worked with Iowa Works, the Title I and WIOA team. So they provided us with some wraparound services. We were able to reverse refer those students that we already had on board with us back to them. And so that helped with some of the scrubs, the books, the tuition, and just having that support for transportation and just basic daily needs. We had IJAG come on site, so it was comprehensive. So we also focused on a lot of other areas besides just clinical. So we tried to make it, a full camp where they were there, they were getting resume writing assistance, they got some interviewing skill assistance. We helped with, what is like protocol in the workplace, professionalism, showing up on time, all of those things. And we had seminars on that throughout the 8 weeks. Green State Credit Union, which is local to that area, jumped in and really helped us with financial literacy training, which was fun. They spent a couple days with us and just helped our students figure out how to set up a checking account, how to do direct deposit, those types of things that fit in well with employment once you get into the workforce. We partnered with Northern Iowa Area Community College, which is NIAC. That was our educational partner for this piece. But one of the things that we did that was a little unique is we had 2 of our managers from our lab area within the hospital went to become instructors at NIAC. So not only were they with the students every day during their clinical training and even their didactic training when they were doing that online, they were also on site at NIAC for the lab. So they really built relationships with those students. So by the time this 8 weeks was up, these students were really part of the Mercy One family and knew it. What else do I want to say about it? Let's see. Overall, I guess the biggest takeaway I have is you got to have a commitment from everybody on the team. You got to have those partners. Community is so important with these types of programs. But we had some pretty amazing outcomes. We learned a lot as well, but we did have 100% program completion rate, which was a big surprise. I mean, we had these referrals come in. We didn't know what to expect, but they all showed up every day. They were excited to learn. They finished all of the clinical hours on time within that 8-week period. We had 4 permanent hires from this program. So 4 out of 10.
Oh, wow.
Is a big success. And we do have others that went on to go to, post-secondary. We have a couple going to the University of Iowa, one at Iowa State. They're still hoping to come back to Mercy One, and we keep in touch with those students. And then we also created a sustainable pilot program because this was the first time this had been done at Mercy One in that area of the state. So we have something now that we can duplicate and model in other areas, and we know what to expect now. So we learned a lot in that respect.
Well, I think you answered one of the questions that kept popping up in my mind as you were speaking, but increasingly we're seeing employers, especially in healthcare, but other areas too, like advanced manufacturing, which we'll hear more about in a minute, train their own, that they really find that is the best way to get the skill set they want in place, the relationships that help cement ongoing, employment ideally. So it sounds like you'll potentially do more training your own?
For sure, yes. I mean, I think you got to focus on individual students that already have a vested interest in maybe a career in the field that you work in. So we know we're trying to find those high school students that want to get into healthcare, but maybe there's some barriers that stand in their way. So why can't we bring them on and train them from the bottom up and then hopefully keep them on as colleagues?
Well, thank you very much, Jennifer. So next, let's go to Doug Ford at Wells Enterprises.
Hi, everyone. My name is Doug Ford. I'm the Director of Operations Training and Development for Wells Enterprises. We make ice cream and frozen novelties across 4 plants. 2 of those plants are in our Lamar's area. One of those plants is about 1.1 million square feet with 61 production lines. Our other plant is about 250,000 square feet, and it has 11 production lines, which is why they call Lamar's the ice cream capital of the world, because we make more ice cream there than anywhere else in the world. But one of the problems that we have is labor force, right? So if you're running plants that size, you need a lot of people. So we always struggle being able to find those people to fill those spots. We have a number of internship programs with colleges, whether it be large scale colleges like big universities or community colleges, but we didn't have anything set up with our local high schools. And some of the superintendent and leadership from Lamar's community reached out and talked to us about the possibility of starting an internship program. So we pulled people together to think through that, really do some brainstorming, find out from the administration what type of exposure, what type of things they were looking for. And then we wanted to sit back and kind of figure out, okay, what do we want to make sure that people know before coming into working in a manufacturing facility? One of the things that we found is it's a little bit scary for people who have never been in manufacturing. You know, they see a large building, they don't know what's inside. So that was one of the things we wanted to focus on, is building that exposure for students, being able to give them the opportunity to see what it's like working in that environment. So the other path, so that's one path, it's kind of a production path. The other path that we've built is from a maintenance standpoint. So really understanding what it's like to do that job, but beyond that, giving students the opportunity to get true mechatronics training. So when they finish this program, they have CEUs that can be used towards associate's degrees or beyond. So that's our second path. So our first path is really built around exposure. Our plan is to bring students in, have them work on different types of ice cream lines, work with different people, see what that job is like over the course of 12 to 14 weeks, as well as giving them skills training. So when they complete that, they would have the opportunity to come in as one of our production operators as a full-time job, making a good wage without having to have any additional degrees. Along our maintenance path, we would give them that mechatronics training, also give them side-by-side exposure, learning things like reliability concepts, to be able to set them up for success if they choose to go into a maintenance field. And that is also a very, very good career. For our maintenance side, since it is more of an investment for Wells, we are requiring students to take a mechanical aptitude test through a company called SMT, which basically just tells us whether or not people have the mentality to be able to think through, problem solve basic mechanical problems before moving them into a maintenance track. If they don't have that, it wouldn't be setting them up for success either. But the idea is to be able to use that, to be able to identify those students that would be successful in that track and then put them down that road. So that's our plan right now. And we are at the beginning stages of this. We're hoping to be able to launch this internship program, both tracks, in January. We're finalizing some of the questions that come up, like things that students can and cannot do from a hands-on. They're not allowed to weld, cut, that type of thing, making sure that we get them in situations where they're safe, as well as hazardous chemicals, what ones we need to keep them away from. So we're kind of finding all those things out, working through those elements, but we still feel that we're on track to be able to launch the program in January.
Great, thank you, Doug. With that, let's go ahead and go on to Continuum Ag and Mitchell and Peggy.
Yeah, thanks for having us on. Should be a fun deal, especially that we've got Peggy, who is a recent intern that we've actually hired and have had at Continuum. But my name is Mitchell Hora. I'm the founder and CEO. Continuum Ag is based down in Washington, Iowa. We're a software company that helps farmers quantify their carbon footprint, known as our carbon intensity score. We have a software that helps them gather their farm data, get verified. That's the long and short of it. But our background is really in agronomy, in crop consulting. I'm a farmer myself, and actually out on my family's 7th generation farm right now. We've always used high school interns. My first, part-time employee when I started Continuum Ag was my younger brother, who was in high school at the time, and we've just continued to utilize high school interns ever since. Most of the time, the high school interns, it's kind of a hodgepodge of different projects that we have them in on, where they can really work kind of at their own pace. they can ask for additional jobs and additional work to do. It really just try to be flexible with their time and their schedules. Most of the time, the high school students are, working and getting paid, a job with us, but they're also getting credit through the on-the-job training program through the high school. So that's worked really well. So the teacher and the school is involved. It's not every time, but most of the time, the students are getting high school credit while, coming to work and getting paid, whether it be during the school hours or after school. It's kind of been a hodgepodge, but we have some ongoing projects that we've had students be a part of for a long time. And how we've done it is the high school intern always helps to find and train their replacement as well. So we've been able to have tremendous success finding good candidates, because when we find somebody good, they go and help to recruit a younger student who's going to replace them. And it's always, so far anyway, and we're, I don't know, 10 interns in or so, 10 high school kids in, that every time they pass the baton, we've had really good success with that next
Yeah,
person.
great
So
strategy.
yeah, it's worked tremendously well. Also, we have used a lot of college interns also. Multiple of those folks have come on into full-time roles. We do have a full-time person who started in our high school program as well. So we've seen success on that. So in our strategy, and reason for doing it, definitely for, recruitment longer term, absolutely, but also helping to get more young people involved in agriculture, get them some hands-on experience. But also we've really enjoyed working with high school students because their time and flexibility has always worked out really well. And especially some of the projects that we have them involved in, they can kind of work at their own schedule, but they need to be around and need to be accessible. And we typically have ideally, we have a high school intern start their junior year. That way we can have them for 2 full years before they have to find and help train their replacement. So that's worked really well. It's not every time that we start them as a junior, but when we can, we'd like to get them when they're a little bit younger, and then work with them for a couple years. And to me, also, I've enjoyed having those high school kids, because even when I was in high school, I participated in those type of programs as well. Participated in the on-the-job training program, and so I've seen firsthand, what it did for me and for helping out in my career, and now honored to be able to carry it on as well. But we also have Peggy here, who was a recent intern for us. I'll let her introduce herself and maybe share a quick remark on her side.
Thanks, Mitchell.
I'm Peggy Miller. Like Mitchell said, I was an intern at Continuum for about 2 years, maybe a little more. I learned a lot about professionalism and just being able to manage a schedule. Not even just managing a schedule, but being able to throw in an internship. I also had another job, and I had school and sports and everything. And I think that the internship at Continuum Ag is it's easy to work with because you get to make your own schedule. So you're, like he said, you always have to be accessible. But really you get to choose, like this has to get done by this time, but within this time, you have plenty of time to get whatever you need done. So,
And would you talk a little bit, Peggy, please, about how that experience at Continuum Ag shaped your thinking decisions about future careers? Because I think internship is both an opportunity to learn what you like, but also what maybe isn't quite the right fit. So I would love to hear your thoughts.
so I grew up obviously in small town Iowa where agriculture is a very big thing. So I've always had a connection to it. I loved ag, but I never lived on a farm. I was just always around them. So I didn't have that like deep knowledge of agriculture. So working with Continuum was really nice because I got to understand more of what was going on around me. But it helped me realize that that's just not where I see myself in the future. I got to go out in the field and do all these things and, learn about everything. But at the end of the day, it's not what I connected with, and it's not what I see myself doing in the future.
Oh.
So,
Which is great to know as well, right?
yeah. Yeah.
So anything else about
100%.
internship you want to share right now? We can come back. I'm sure we'll come back to you, but anything else at this point?
I don't think so.
I
Okay,
thought you were
well,
going to
thank you
share
very
that
much.
that you got to fly drones and that kind of thing. And
Oh, okay. I
uh,
can. Yeah, I get to fly drones and I got to, ride a four-wheeler around for a couple hours, but
Oh, very cool. So great experience. And no doubt the skill sets from an internship, some of them are transferable no matter what career you go into. So what a great
100.
opportunity to have had. Well, thank you, Peggy and Mitchell. And let's now go, well, actually, before we go to Kyle Coolers, Margaret, would you mind introducing yourself? I didn't give you a chance to do that.
No worries. Thank you, Linda. So I'm Margaret Allen. I'm with Trinity Health System. We're a 27-state health system that Mercy One is a part of. And in my role across our 27 states, I support workforce development innovation and also opportunities to scale interesting and successful pilots. One of the things that we're looking to scale is the model that Jen talked about, is our young adult phlebotomy program. So thank you, Linda.
Thank you so much for joining us. So now let's turn to Kyle Coolers. And Kyle, can you introduce yourself and talk to us about, your role with internships and why they've been so, in some ways life-changing for some of your students?
Yeah, thank you, Linda, and thank you, Jody from the Department of Ed for giving me this opportunity to share about the Waterloo schools and their integration of work-based learning with high school experiences. The first thing I have to do is I've got to say I'm an Albert Einstein Fellow, and so the opinions, the Albert Einstein Fellowship Fellow opinions do not represent the positions or policies of the program, the AEF program, the National Science Foundation, or the U.S. federal government. So
and Kyle, thank you for that disclaimer. We were able to hear it, at least I was, but can you get a little closer to the mic, please?
Oh, I am sorry. Okay. Yes. Can you hear me now?
That's better. Thank you. But we did hear the disclaimer was audible, so thank you.
Okay. In my role, so I'm a high school teacher, computer science teacher. And so I, in my 7 years ago, when I took the Waterloo Career Center technology education job, it was my idea kind of to make my classroom as the community classroom. And so I spent a lot of time in the Cedar Valley and the Waterloo area interacting with the local and Iowa technology community there in the area, trying to understand the skill sets and the important mindset that students need to develop to have success in the workforce in Iowa, in the Cedar Valley. So this focus challenged me as an instructor to really raise my learning too. And so I have to stay ahead of the changing technology to grow students' workforce needs. And so some of the examples are, in programming, the community, the workforce is using the text editor, Visual Studio Code. And then for project manager, they're using the tool, the Trello tool in the Cedar Valley. Cybersecurity, there's a lot of software around packet tracing and password cracking. And so those are all things that I, as an instructor, had to go out and to learn and to become familiar with, and then really use that in my classroom with my students so that they're employable when they go out into the Cedar Valley. I strongly believe that students want to be challenged. And we're finding our high school seniors, when they go out and they start competing with other high school seniors or even college students for these internships, that they have the knowledge and they have some of the industry tools and are able to talk the talk, and they're competitive in getting those. One of the things, when the Waterloo Career Center provides the academic competitions, the service opportunities, the industry recognized credentials, authentic learning opportunities, and those are outside of the school walls. And so really try and get the students out of the building as much as possible. That creates a student excitement and keeps them excited about their future, and they stay with it, as opposed to maybe changing their mind, or they can see it, and that interaction with professionals helps. The excitement will lead to scholarships, internships, And then the whole goal is eventually keep them in Iowa, keep students in Iowa, have students come back to the Cedar Valley, and work in our local community. More details, I'll get into more details today as we progress, but feel free to reach out to me anytime, questions or ideas. I love to talk about ideas and to try new things. And so, but again, really that whole concept of my classroom is the public's classroom. And so every week I try and have business, organizations, different people in my classroom, and then also trying to get students out into the community also. So thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. And can you talk, I want to come back to all the employers on the panel as well with this similar question. What are you hearing from employers about what they want, what AI skills, what artificial intelligence skills they want students to bring? I know you mentioned some of the different, depending, I mean, there's not one AI tool, there are many AI tools for different AI jobs. And, but are you sensing kind of anything are there themes that are emerging about what employers expect, or do they just want students willing to learn?
One of the biggest things was 2 years ago, AI started to bubble up and started to become popular. Our employees, there was a survey in the Cedar Valley, and it said 65–70% of the employers were using AI. School had it blocked. So worked with the school to get it unblocked. And now making sure that students just have experience with AI, depending on their situation. If they go into a company that uses Microsoft, it's going to be more Copilot. If it's more of a Google company, they're going to use more Gemini. The flavors are all different, but if they understand the concept of AI, and AI is to make you more efficient, it's not going to take anybody's jobs. It's actually creating more jobs than it's taking. And that's kind of a misnomer that people kind of get excited about. It's changing jobs, and it's really elevating the skill sets and allowing employees to be more efficient and to do more, because you can have AI or an AI agent do some of the other things that are more repetitive for you, and that frees up a lot of time. So our high schoolers and even the college age kids, under 30 probably, they really get it. And so using them and kind of having them be a conduit to train and to go out into their jobs and really work hard with students to say, hey, you're going to go get a job. You're going to be working for someone my age, 55 years old. I didn't grow up with a cell phone in my hand. I didn't grow up with AI, and so you're going to have to train and use and show the benefits and sell it to your employer. And then you've got an amazing opportunity to make that company more efficient and to show them new ways to do things. And the entrepreneurial spirit in the teenagers and the college students is just incredible. And AI is exploding that entrepreneurial spirit in the younger generation, at least younger than me.
Thank you, Kyle. So Doug, can we circle back to you, please, with a related question? As you developed, the production and repair roles for interns, did AI figure into your thinking about what students and interns should be exposed to as they learn about those roles?
Honestly, AI isn't a big piece of those particular roles. There are certainly roles within the company where AI is utilized extensively, but from a production operator standpoint or maintenance, it isn't a tool that's used frequently.
Okay. So Margaret and Jennifer, from I know increasingly, AI has obviously been around for quite a while, but keeps evolving. So in the medical healthcare world, are you anticipating needing to do more as you upskill, reskill, or introduce interns, to jobs, integrating AI more into that? I heard a University of Iowa expert recently talking about, sort of how AI can help take notes, for example, and make that simpler for healthcare providers. But can you talk about what you're anticipating at this point, at least a little bit?
I mean, I think basic exposure is always good. And I do think that we're going to organically evolve into that AR realm, but I think it is in healthcare right now. I think it's been being used for dictation for, like, when I went to the doctor, she was using it in the actual doctor's office, like using AI to record our entire appointment. So I think that it will be more and more in healthcare, but we definitely wouldn't select high school students who didn't have strong AI skills at this point. We're more looking for cultural fit. Do they align with our values? Can they be taught? But I love everything that Kyle, you said, because I think it is still awesome that you could maybe show me how to use it, because I rely on sometimes my own kids to show me that type of thing. So I think it's definitely coming. And I mean, we use it for, like Copilot, basic emails. I mean, even just writing up some grant information, things that will help us say things better. So I think it's just going to be an organic evolution of AI throughout our organization.
Thanks, Jennifer. Margaret, anything you want to add to that?
No, Jennifer covered it. Right now, fortunately, high school students don't have to come equipped with AI skills, so we will continue to stay abreast.
Thank you. So, Mitchell, you're all about AI, right? But in terms of your expectations of interns, is that something that, if you look ahead to interns who are most likely to be offered internships, is there something they should be bringing on their resumes?
No, I think I am in the same spot as what I'm hearing most of the other panelists, where it's like, yeah, it's good to have. I think a lot of, especially young people, have exposure to it, but really where we've been using it at Continuum is a lot of my employees that are millennials and in their 30s that didn't grow up native to this stuff and now learning it on the job at Continuum, and we're really able to kind of learn from each other with our younger folks as well. But and yeah, we're using it in a wide array of different manners. Part of it just, like I said, note keeping type of things, but tying it in with like chat bots and stuff within the software will be a big opportunity. Cleaning up stuff for marketing purposes and emails and copywriting type stuff. Brainstorming and ideas and building out reports and documents and stuff. But then where we're really seeing it going is we are helping to really dig through a lot of data and need to be able to flag anomalies and whatnot. So rather than hire a bunch of people that have to sift through every nitty gritty piece of detailed agronomic data component across millions of acres that we are working on. Instead, we're using AI to help do the initial sifting through and then flagging potential issues. So then our folks that are in the office then can address where there's actual issues. So then what that's doing is it's getting people to not have to do tedious jobs when we can utilize our manpower for, you know, better better use of their time versus just boring, painstaking tasks. Let the AI do the boring stuff and utilize the people to kind of take things to the next level. But nobody, we have not hired anybody so far that had AI expertise coming in. But in the future, in a software company, do I see that happening? Yeah, I think it's going to continue to be a major component. So absolutely something I think would be on our radar for the future.
Thanks, Mitchell. And Kylie and Matt, in terms of the internship, how does AI fit into construction and interns, and especially as you think about broadening internship opportunities for students in high school going forward?
I can maybe help answer that. So like everybody else, we like to have some exposure to it, but our industry, it's kind of a selling point for us that so some of the fear for younger people is that my job might be replaced by AI. We're in an industry that would help. It wouldn't be replaced by AI because we have to have people that are actually doing the manual tasks, pulling the wiring stuff, having to use human input associated with it. So I think it gives some of our interns some comfort that there's a longevity, a career that's going to last for decades that isn't going to be replaced by AI.
Thank you. Anything you want to add to that, Kylie?
I think there was a quote. I watched a video on some positive things on AI, and it said to double down on what machines can't touch. So trust, empathy, dexterity, and the human drive for meaning and connection. Really, as an electrician, I'm thinking about dexterity specifically. They're AI, a robot, they're not going to get underneath the sink like a plumber would. On the flip side, AI can make us more efficient in some of the ways that we bid work. And so our hope is that we can kind of fill in the gap with how much more efficient we can be in the future. And our labor force, we can hopefully pay more, and we can get them, they can move up the skill set a lot faster if we can do it that way. So, but back to Matt's point, the longevity of the career, you're not going to get into any of the trades and then lose that skill set to somebody else, because that's not something that AI is good at repetition, and sometimes in troubleshooting, it's not repetition. So
thank you. Oh, that's very helpful. So I want to start with the two of you with the next question. And you alluded to this a little earlier in your presentation, but when employers contact us and say they are interested in starting an internship program, the single biggest question that comes up over and over and almost every time is the legal liability question. And can we do this? And especially in trades where there is, there are maybe more safety issues depending on the occupation than in some other kinds of internships. So can you talk a little bit more about how Team Klein was able to, because you have students as young as 16 sometimes as interns, is that correct?
yeah, I mean, most of the time.
So can you talk about how you work through that between what 16 and 17-year-olds can do versus 18-year-olds, and how you got comfortable and confident that you had the legal issues down?
Yeah. So to start, I will say most of our interns are 17 or 18. Sometimes we run into students being 16 if they come in between their junior and senior year during the summer. I didn't really touch on this. We work with 4 high schools here in the area. I think we added a 5th one with this particular school season starting. The only time that we work with high school students outside of working directly with high schools themselves is when we offer a summer internship. That's when we have kids that are 16 or 17 who are coming in. Because I find that you can't teach ambition. So if a kid wants to come work 40 hours a week during their summer, that's probably the kid that you're going to want to hire. Whereas when you have an internship program directly with the school, sometimes, not always, you have kids that are really just looking to get out of class. And that's, you can kind of weed that down when there's teacher oversight along with that one single point of contact. So back to your question though, paying your interns will cover any of your job site and work-related accidents. Of course, we don't want any of our employees to be injured, but you would be covered by work comp if they are paid. And then we do have some jobs that are considered too dangerous. So we send out interns to residential new construction job sites, to commercial and our multifamily job sites, but we don't send them out with our boring team that does directional drilling, and we don't send them out to our underground team that's going to be digging trenches. We've just determined that's not the hazards that we want those who are 17 to be around. The other department that we don't typically send interns out is with our service department. They're going out to like lived-in homes on the residential side. And so we're not wanting them to be partnered in that way. And then on our commercial service side, those are typically one-off jobs. One foreman is on site and not like a large crew. And we find that we have success with our interns if they feel like they're part of the family. So we want them to be on larger job sites.
But we do a lot of training associated with as well. So we don't want to have somebody go out and try to operate a piece of equipment that they don't understand how to use. So we train the interns, we train the foremen that are leading these interns on what they can and can't do. We give them cheat sheets and checklists on what they can and can't do. And then we also say if they're uncomfortable, even if they can do it and are uncomfortable with it, we give them the permission to say, hey, we just don't feel comfortable doing this, and we don't require them to do it. So we want to create an environment that they feel safe in, they can learn in, and not get injured.
So there's a couple of ways that you can go about there's some laws within child labor laws in Iowa. I think chapter 32 and chapter 92, if there's anyone on here who's wanting to look at the specifics of the Iowa the Iowa code. There are some exemptions though. So one way is Iowa is rolling out a pre-apprenticeship program. If you have a partnership between a business and a school with a registered apprenticeship program, you can offer a pre-apprenticeship program, and that takes some of those restrictions and loosens them just a bit so that someone who is 17 or 16 can actually learn from a qualified professional and learn hands-on and not just by observing. And then there is also an exemption. So if your business or your school was not partnered with a registered apprenticeship program providing a pre-apprenticeship, if you have a document with the Iowa Workforce Development, there's some exemptions that allow you to use a power tool on site. It's not going to allow you to use, you're not going to be going on a lift, but you might be able to use an impact or a drill.
There is a youth employment waiver process when employers are not working with a school partner that they can utilize to see what otherwise prohibited activities might be possible. So yes, thank you, Kylie, for bringing that up. And Doug, as you looked, I know you alluded, you spoke to this pretty directly in your earlier comments, how complicated is it as an advanced manufacturing company to, as you work through the occupations that you're turning into, that you're creating internships for, how hard is it to figure out what's permitted and what's not permitted?
Well, we're kind of figuring that out right now. So
Right.
I can say it's a little bit of a surprise for us as we've been building this. We didn't think about that probably as in detail as we should have, but our legal team is helping us work through those things now. And as far as to be able, the difficulty of it won't be that bad. We just need to know the guardrails. We need to know the list of rules of what people are allowed to do and what students are allowed to do and what students aren't allowed to do. And we can build a program around that and ensure that they aren't doing those activities that are called out or aren't being exposed to the chemicals that are called out.
Thank you. We have a legal considerations document for employers at Iowa Workforce Development that we share, but we always tell employers to, because circumstances depend on the employer and what they want to accomplish, how important it is to consult their legal counsel and their insurance company to make sure that they meet the law. And we have hundreds, if not thousands, of companies doing apprenticeships and internships. So we know it's very doable, but it certainly is an important responsibility. So thanks for talking about your experience. I guess Jennifer and Margaret, a question from, healthcare occupations are the top occupations in Iowa with the most openings that need to be filled. So that workforce shortage is not only the biggest one, but also, obviously very, very important for the health and well-being of Iowans. So if you could give advice to schools and community colleges that are doing work-based learning with healthcare employers, what is it that you most need from them, to make it workable to have internship or apprenticeship partnerships?
Good question. I think I'm still learning that because I'm about a year into my role, and Margaret might have some input here, but I think open communication is always important, and just being patient and flexible because, healthcare it's a beast of its own because we have to follow different protocol than about any other industry because we're dealing with the safety of our patients as well, not just the interns. So we have to integrate, and we call them work-based learners at Mercy One, but we have to integrate them completely into our system. So they have to be onboarded. They have to go through the health and background screenings in order to work on site, and patient facing. A lot of times they have to go through some sort of pre-training. So they might have to get CPR certified, or they might have to go through some hoops to be able to come on board as a paid intern or work-based learning participant. So just, it takes a little bit more patience, I think, and open communication.
And privacy and confidentiality is no doubt part of that process.
And they be trained. These students who came in for our program, they went through a full, I think it was almost 2 weeks of that onboarding process where they have to learn about confidentiality. They have to learn about legal agreements with patients. They went through full health screenings where, the TB testing, all of that was just like you would if you were employed. So that's why, and I know Team Klein did bring it up, these were paid opportunities as well so that we could onboard. So they had badges and security clearance and everything through us. So it sometimes that can be a lengthy process.
But worthwhile as it's played out.
Definitely. And another amazing thing is when somebody's on board with us as an intern, if we offer them a position, they've already gone through all that. So they're set up to just start working, especially if they're 18 to 24. They just get out of high school, they do a summer internship or work-based learning program with us like this. And then suddenly, we can onboard them pretty quickly because they're already in our system.
Thank you. So Kyle, you're in the probably top 1% of educators I've known over many years of working with educators in terms of reaching out to the community, employers specifically, and making those connections both to expand what you're able to offer your students, but also the opportunities your students have to, interact with the community. So how can teachers and I'm sure you didn't do most of that during the school day. I'm pretty sure you did most of that on your own time. And so it's a big expectation. What is it that within a reasonable expectation of educators' very busy schedules, which often run outside of school hours, how do you fit internship, other kinds of work-based learning experiences in integrating that into what you teach, what students learn? How can teachers and work-based learning coordinators and school administrators do that, given all the other things they have to do?
To me, a lot of it boils down to priorities and what's your end result. And so my end result is I want students to go out and be employable and get a job. And so that encompasses then advocating for myself for what I need. And I'm fortunate because my administration administrators are great. And they will, if I want to use my PD time, there may be other PD activities going on, but hey, I have an employer over here. They've got 4 high school seniors working with them and they want to talk about next semester, and so then they're okay with using the PD time. And so
You mean your professional development time, correct?
Exactly. There's time built into the school year. And so just changing maybe the thought process of how that time could be used and what's the end goal. And then freeing up and supporting and trusting the teachers, the instructors. Again, I have a great relationship with my administrators and that trust is there. So they trust myself going out and having these conversations, and that isn't always the case. And so, branching out a little bit, prioritizing, having that trust in your instructors, and then making room in their schedule for that time. And then, recognizing it, of course. And so just, whatever little ways, can be that recognition is always important. But I would encourage schools to start to use more of the professional development time to get the teachers out of the building, into the community, talking to your employers and finding ways, and get creative, find ways to allow students to interact with those organizations and community partners.
That's a great recommendation. Thank you. Thank you very much, Kyle. So Peggy, I want to come back to you to, go ahead, Jody, please jump in.
We do have one. I just want to make sure we get this question because it's in the chat. So we have a question. It says, to those that pay their interns, what is your pay range? And if you're not able to pay your interns, what are the motivators to get the students to participate?
Great question.
Our pay for our interns starts at $10. And the majority of our employers pay more than that. And so they can then subsidize that if they want to. And we had one intern that was making $25 an hour and then working full time in the summer. but we pay $10. And so if you have a situation where you can't pay the intern, look to your community members or set up a probationary trial period. Say, hey, let's get this student into your workplace for 2 weeks. And if you like them, if they're doing a good job, you know what? You're probably going to want to pay them. And so, because you're going to want to keep them. And so, because there's value. And so some of that gets into the relationship between the student and the school and the employer and finding that value in the internship.
I can share on the continuum side. Usually for high school interns, we're usually around $12 an hour, and the college interns usually around 15. If they're coming back repeat years, sometimes they're it's been opportunity for hire, but that's usually where we're at.
Thanks, Mitchell.
And we're
Anybody
plan-
else?
To the Mercy One program, we paid the students $16. But we were very fortunate to have a grant to support that. But one of our practices is we try to identify funding often in partnering with the public workforce system, school districts, or grants in order to fund it. But it's almost always paid. And we try to pay it at a rate that's just below what the actual role would actually pay. So it's like a trainee rate.
Well, thank you,
One
Margaret.
thing I just want to throw out quick is schools aren't maybe forward enough to ask what, be aggressive. Just say, hey, pay this intern, or set up a probationary period. Sometimes we're just kind of like, well, we don't want to ask because it's a great opportunity. Ask them to pay it. I've never had an employer or an organization say no. So, but you have to get to the point to where you're comfortable asking. And so get a little bit more aggressive and ask and just say, hey, there will be some value in it. If there's not value in it after 2 weeks, then you know what? Pull back, set up some sort of safety net to where you can pull it back.
Thank you, Kyle. And I know we're going to have requests for contact information for some of or all of the presenters on the panel. And so there is contact information in the chat for Jody and for myself. Please feel free to reach out to us and we'd be happy to make connections. Or if any of the panelists who are on now want to just go into the chat to share your contact information, feel free to do that as well. Not obligated, but feel free to do that. So I want to come back really quickly, Peggy, to you. Do you think every high school student ought to have the opportunity for an internship? Is that something that, is important enough, or are there just enough other kinds of work-based learning activities that it could be anything from a job shadow to a tour to an internship?
I think that there's a big difference between just a job shadow and an internship. So most students don't want to do, like they job shadow for a day. That's, a day's worth of learning with somebody. And I don't think that you get the full idea of how the job runs or how like the person's position would actually work out. So I think that an internship, it's like it's a long term, like, you're there for a couple years. And you really get like the full idea. It helps like set a standard for what you want in the future and what you'd see in your future, like job choices and the environment that you want to work in. And I do think that it's a really good idea for high schoolers to be in internships or just some type of job in general over job shadows.
Great advice. Well, we will have to come to a close shortly, so I'm going to turn things over to Jody to close us out.
Yeah, thank you, Linda. First and foremost, I just want to thank the panel for all the information that you guys provided today. I think it's very valuable and it speaks to how important high school internships are, not only to students, but also to you guys, because it is a direct employment pipeline for you. But I also want to thank the audience for attending, and then also my dear colleague, Linda at Iowa Workforce Development, for all of her diligent work behind the scenes to facilitate today's webinar. I do want to take a moment to remind everybody that that we do have another webinar that will be coming up in November titled Work-Based Learning, a Key Strategy to Address Iowa's Healthcare Workforce Shortage. That webinar is scheduled for Tuesday, November 4th from 3:30 to 4:30 p.m. It will be the fourth webinar in our webinar series that's between Iowa Workforce Development and the Department of Education. Please do consider registering. I will put the link in the chat for you. But in the meantime, if you, both myself and then Linda with Iowa Workforce Development would love to assist employers and educators to help you develop your work-based learning any way that we can. So I think I already put our contact information in the chat, but I'll make sure if it's not, I'll get it in there again for you. But again, I just want to thank everyone for joining us today as we look for ways to expand work-based learning opportunities to students, and we look forward to working with you. Have a great afternoon. Thank you, everybody.